Hello and welcome to the Math 83 OER Overview. In this video, we will be discussing briefly what is Math 83 and the philosophy of teaching the Math 83 OER course. Afterwards, we will spend some time looking at the course materials for student learning that are available in our Math 83 OER package. And finally, we'll take a look at the instructor resources that are available to you, as well as a calendar and typical day in the classroom. So first, what is Math 83? It is the beginning and intermediate algebra course for our SLAM pathway students. So these are students who will be planning on taking Math 219, Statistics and Probability, or Math 105, Math for Liberal Arts students, or Math 204, Math Concepts for Elementary School Teachers. These are students who typically need to apply the mathematics in more contextualized settings. One of the key philosophies for our Math 83 course is the fact that students are engaged in active learning. As George Poyle once said, mathematics is not a spectator sport. And so we find that students should be engaged in things such as scenario problem solving, working in groups, giving explanations to groups or the classroom, or even working with technology in the classrooms. Sometimes we will supplement this learning with mini lectures that respond to the students' learning, or even just introduce some smaller topics. However, a good chunk of the time, students will be learning from doing. The second key philosophy for our Math 83 OER course is the fact that we are able to provide students to access to all the content at a free or low cost. And we are able to do this by utilizing content that has the Creative Commons license. Further, by using OER resources, we're able to create a course that's adaptable and customizable to fit the content and context that we want, since we are not bound to any publisher's textbook. So now, let's take a look at the materials that are available in our OER course package. The first thing is our OER lesson textbook, which will be the base for all of our students' active learning. In it contains all of the lessons that the students will encounter throughout the semester, including the problem-solving scenarios that are necessary for the active learning. The materials were developed by SAC faculty based on materials developed at other colleges, as well as created by our own faculty themselves. They are available in the bookstore for under $15, or optionally, students may download them for free online. With these options, students will always have the lesson available on day one and each and every day in the classroom. In order to be prepared to actively engage in the content in the classroom, students must first prepare with the basic concepts that they're going to be using within these lessons. So they are going to be assigned prep assignments, which are assignments that include videos or text lessons, where they will be focusing on those main concepts and performing basic exercises. This way, students will come to class prepared with the basic concepts already learned and ready to perform the active learning. This is very similar to the model of the Math 84 class if you have ever taught that before. In addition to their online prep assignments, students will be required to complete their homework assignments online as well. These exercises will be similar to the exercises that they encounter in the classroom during their lessons. Online, they will be able to get their immediate feedback to see if they're completing the problems correctly, and their scores will be directly entered into their gradebook. Since these assignments are all integrated using the OER platform of Lumen or MyOpenMath, students will not need any access codes to be able to get started on their homework. Further, this can be integrated directly into Canvas, so you have a seamless classroom for students to be able to access. In order to ensure student learning, this course also utilizes quizzes. These quizzes can be given either on paper or online, or as some instructors do, a hybrid of both. Since they will be covering the previous 2 to 3 topics, or lessons, we often give them weekly, and the problems are similar to those provided on the homework. For each unit exam, review assignments are available for students to practice and prepare. These assignments are available both on paper, as well as another assignment that's available online. And the online ones tend to highlight the homework problems that students will need to work on and practice in order to be prepared for the next test. Lastly, students will encounter study skills assignments, which are embedded into the course. These assignments will have students watch short videos where they learn some of the skills necessary to be successful in a math class. Then they will respond to these videos as well as student quotes as an assignment and submit those for points. These study skills are already integrated into the calendar of assignments. The calendar of assignments helps students to be able to quickly see what types of things they need to complete for each day for class. Here's an example of one that we have here, where it tells them the deadline and the dates that they're needed. Further, this calendar can be implemented directly into Canvas as well, where students can see the same calendar in Canvas. So finally, let's take a look at some of the instructor resources that you have available to you. The resources we can provide to you are things such as example exams for each of the units, and as well as quizzes, where you can create your quizzes on paper or use a quiz generator online to be able to use the homework problems that are available to you. Finally, we provide you with a syllabus sample and a frequently asked question. Finally, let's take a look at a typical day agenda that would happen in a Math 83 course. To prepare for a typical day, we would first prepare before class by looking over the prep assignment to see what content is actually covered. Further, some of the content is actually repeated in the lesson itself, so it's not necessary for the students to go through both unless they need that additional support. I would also work through the lesson to identify where students might struggle. I may find some areas where the students are going to need some extra support, or maybe just think of questions that I may ask the students that will help them get through the struggle in their groups. Finally, I would identify areas that the students themselves are showing a huge struggle in on the item analysis. That way, when we get to class, I would start off at the beginning by verbally outlining the main points of the lesson in 1 to 3 minutes. This gives the students the focus and idea of what they're supposed to be focusing on and making sure that they learn. Second, I would also take some time to discuss those areas that I identified in the item analysis to make sure that the students are able to understand those key basic concepts before attacking the more complicated problems in their booklet. Then, depending on the student's comfort level, I would have them work in their groups for about 65 to 95% of the lesson. There's different ways you can approach doing this. One of the main ways that we use is the use of a whiteboard, where we can give a marker to one student per group, and especially the one who maybe needs to learn it a little bit more than others. We can ask also one student per group to remove the lesson from their notebook to help facilitate working at the whiteboard so that they know which problems they are working on. Another way you can have it is where you have students work directly out of the lesson book themselves in their groups. And these are useful for the lessons where there's probably some kind of diagram or tables where it's easier to fill it out on the paper versus having to recreate them onto the whiteboard. Depending on the students, the whiteboard space, and when the group gets to a challenging concept, I may interrupt the groups and ask them to explain how they were able to do their first exercise. And we may go around to the next group to explain the next one, etc. This allows the students to practice discussing and reviewing those concepts that they were able to get in their class, in their groups. After everything has been discussed, then we may briefly reinforce the key concepts of the lesson or even previous lessons and look at some of those challenging issues where the students have. I may direct some additional practice created on the spot just to help them to get through these difficult pieces. Finally, at the end, I would allow students to get started on their individual assignments online while they still have the support of the classroom. Or, on other days, I may have them complete their weekly quiz, which takes about 20 to 30 minutes for them. So as you can see, all of these things make up the unit, where students are working on prep assignments to homeworks and study skills. And in this, they will often have a weekly quiz, all kind of meshed together into one typical unit. And at the end, the unit will come together with, of course, an exam. So all of these things that we've covered are what we should be seeing in our Math 83 course for the OER type of option. So from the preps to the homeworks to a typical classroom day, I hope this video has been helpful as an overview of what to expect when teaching Math 83.